Before I get started, I want to uh, let you all know a couple housekeeping items. This webinar, as you just heard, will be recorded and posted on OBI's website for anyone who can't make it today. And as I just said, there will be time for questions. About a half an hour is reserved for questions. To ask a question, please use the question and answer function on the Zoom, which you should be able to see at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Today, this is OBI's Paid Leave Oregon update, what employers need to know as benefits approach. We have two folks from Paid Leave Oregon here with us today, Philip Hudspeth and Emily Sokolsky, and I'll let them take it from here.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you to our friends at OBI for hosting us. I really want to thank Katie, Eric, and Derek, all for their efforts in getting this program up and available for you. I am dropping a copy of this slide deck presentation into the webinar chat. We will also be dropping links in throughout the course of this presentation today. So again, thank you for your interest in being here with us at this exciting time as we get ready to launch paid leave. As Derek said, my name is Philip Hudspeth, and I'm part of the outreach and customer care team for Paid Leave Oregon. We are a division of the Oregon Employment Department, and I'm joined by my colleague, Emily. And you'll get a chance to hear from her about halfway through this presentation. Again, thank you for having us. So today we're going to spend the first few minutes providing an overview of our program, including specific topics that are covered on this slide. As was said earlier, after we conclude our presentation, then we'll be happy to answer your questions there. We're also going to drop a link into the chat for the Paid Leave Oregon Employee Guidebook. The guidebook is to give employees and their families a general overview of their rights and responsibilities under the Paid Leave Oregon program. And then we'll also drop a link into the chat for the employer guidebook. This comprehensive guide shares everything from payroll reporting to assistance grants for employers. Now, for paid leave, we are on track to meet all our major deliverables. And Oregon is one of 12 states, and actually now there are going to be a couple more paid leave states this year. So Oregon first had started talking about bringing a paid leave program on in about 2016. It was passed in 2019 under House Bill 2005. Since Oregon has passed a paid leave legislation, Minnesota and Maine have also passed paid leave legislation. So there'll be 13 paid leave states plus the District of Columbia. We started accepting applications a year ago for employers that were going to submit for an equivalent plan. We'll talk about those in a little bit. Starting January 1, everybody that receives a paycheck in Oregon that is reported on a W-2 started paying contributions into the Paid Leave Trust. We start accepting applications for paid leave benefits August 14th, so in 10 days from now. And then on September 3rd of this year, we go live with paying for benefits. So we are very close to moving forward on that. So who's covered under paid leave in Oregon? Well, as I noted earlier, if you receive a paycheck that's reported on a W-2, you are essentially going to be participating in paid leave Oregon. And this does include religious organizations, nonprofits, and S corporations there. Individuals that are self-employed or independent contractors have the option to opt into paid leave. Individuals that are part of tribal governments and individuals that work for the federal government would not be participating in paid leave Oregon. Also, railroad workers are exempt from under the Federal Railroad Unemployment Insurance Act from participating in paid leave. And undergraduate or graduate students and work study programs are also excluded from it, and volunteers. So what is paid leave? In Oregon, paid leave is up to 12 weeks, and it's available in 3 different broad categories. So there's family leave to take care of a family member with a serious illness or injury, are to bond with a new child in their first year after adoption, after birth, adoption, or foster care placement. There's medical leave, and that's for one to take care of themselves during their own serious illness or injury. And then there's safe leave, and safe leave is for individuals who may have experienced sexual assault, domestic violence, harassment, or stalking. Okay, so paid leave eligibility. So you are covered if you've worked for you've been employed in Oregon and your work is located in Oregon. You've earned at least $1,000 in wages in the year prior to your qualifying event. You've contributed to the payroll, to paid leave through your payroll deductions. You experience a qualifying event and you have a social security number or an individual tax identification number, or an ITIN. Employees who are eligible to receive unemployment insurance or workers' compensation are not eligible for paid leave. So some examples of qualifying events, and so disability due to miscarriage or stillbirth, and this does include both the physical and mental impacts related to the loss of a pregnancy, caring for or bonding with a child in their first year after birth, adoption, or foster care placement, to care for a family member with a serious health condition. Examples that wouldn't be covered under paid leave, a non-serious illness, so if you just have a common cold and are going to be out a day or so, bereavement, or military leave. Those are not covered under paid leave. Paid leave Oregon does not replace other types of leave programs that you might be familiar with, such as the Oregon Family Medical Leave Act, the Federal Medical Leave Act. There are some important differences between these three programs. One major difference is that paid leave is a paid benefit, where the Oregon Family Medical Leave Act and the Federal Medical Leave Act is an unpaid. You should take leave under OFLA or FMLA at the same time as you take paid leave if it is for the same qualifying event. So those leaves should run concurrently. Paid leave allows claimants to top off their paid leave benefits with other leave benefits such as short-term disability, vacation, or sick leave. We do encourage claimants to talk to their employers and their insurance providers about topping off benefits there. When a person applies for paid leave, they're going to have to certainly provide verification. Claimants will need to provide documentation to support their application. So for the case of family leave, to care for or bond with a family, a bond with a child, verification sources can come from a number of places. So it could be a birth certificate, a hospital admission form, or a statement from a foster care or adoption agency. Family leave to care for a family member with a serious health condition or for your own medical leave, you can use the following forms for verification. So there will be a paid leave verification of a serious health condition form, the Oregon and Family Medical Leave Healthcare Provider Certification, and then other documentation from a healthcare provider. You can please refer to our employer guidebook for more information. Now, for the purposes of safe leave, verification can come from a variety of services. So safe leave verification requires checking a box or other source of information, such as a copy of a protective order, a healthcare provider document, a statement from a member of clergy. These are all examples. A Title IX coordinator, a mental health provider, documentation from attorney, or a police report for the purposes of safe leave. And so for more information or verification service sources, please refer to our employee guidebook. And I will drop links to these after my portion of the presentation is over with. So every covered employee in Oregon can take up to 12 weeks of paid leave in a one-year period or a benefit year. Leave can be taken in increments of a week, a day, or a number of days less than a week. Employees can also choose between consecutive are intermittent leave schedules. Employees cannot work during the days that they are taking leave. If an employee has more than one job, they must take leave from all their employers on the days they are claiming paid leave. Benefit years are a rolling 52-week period commencing the Sunday before an individual's leave begins. If an employee has multiple qualifying events in a single year, they must file separate applications for each leave. If they have a chronic medical condition, then they will need to provide a new application every benefit year. Okay. So let's look at the application, in a glance there. Before applying for paid leave benefits, claimants may want to make sure that they have all their documentation ready. Employees should notify the employer at least 30 days before starting foreseeable leave. So they such as for a scheduled surgery, or they know when they're expecting a child. For unforeseeable events, an employee or their authorized representative must provide verbal notice within 24 hours and written notice within 3 days. The employer's notification policy should be in the employee handbook and may include type of leave, family, medical, or safe, reasons for leave, so your covered life event, schedule and duration of leave, if the employee doesn't know exactly when or how much leave they will take, and they can give an estimate. Employees can apply for paid leave in several ways. So there's Francis Online, which is our new modernized portal, and that's the fastest way to submit an application. And starting August 14th, Francis Online will be available for people to apply for paid leave benefits. They will need to create an account on Francis. There will be payer forms that are available on our website that individuals can download and mail in. Also, claimants can call our toll-free number, which is 833-854-0166 between 8 and 5, Monday through Friday, and paid leave staff will assist with their application. Once the application and supporting documentation has been received, the application will be reviewed. Claimants will receive a potential benefit amount letter with the weekly benefit amount. Once paid leave has made a decision, claimants will receive a decision letter showing either they're approved or denied for their application, and information about how to request a hearing to appeal a decision if they were denied, or they're challenging the amount of time approved off, or the duration of leave. Okay. Paid leave will also notify employers at the time that we receive an application, and once more notifying the employer when a decision has been made. These notifications will come by mail or email depending on the communication preference made by the employer in our new online modernized portal called Francis. We'll make every effort to ensure that the first payment is within 2 weeks of approving a claim, consistent with the claimant's leave schedule. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, Emily. Thank you, Emily.
Thanks, Philip. So paid leave is funded through payroll contributions paid by both employees and employers. The contribution rate is set annually, no later than November 15th by the Employment Department, and cannot exceed 1% of gross employee wages. The rate for 2023 is 1% of up to $132,900 in wages. Earnings over that are not subject to further contributions. Employees pay 60% of the contribution rate, and large employers pay 40%. So as an example, if an employee earned $1,000 in wages this month, they would pay $6 in contributions, and a large employer would pay $4. Employers may also pay the employee's share of the contribution rate as a benefit. There are different rules for large and small employers. Paid Leave Oregon defines a large employer as those with 25 or more employees. Employee size is determined by payroll reports submitted by the employer. The employee count was determined in April for 2023. The employee count includes full-time, part-time, seasonal, and temporary workers, as well as out-of-state workers. Only temporary workers hired to replace an employee taking paid leave is excluded from the employee count. Employers take those employee counts from the months in the previous year and average them to find out whether they're a large or small employer. And we have instructions to determine employer size on our website. Small employers may apply for assistance grants when their employees take leave. The grants available are a $3,000 grant to hire a replacement worker, or up to $1,000 for wage-related costs such as overtime or training. Up to $30,000 per year in grants is available per employer. Small employers who receive assistance grants must pay employer contributions for the next 8 quarters. This slide shows examples of payroll contributions and benefits. When we calculate benefits, we will look at how much the employee earned compared to the state average weekly wage, which is $1,269.69 through June of 2024. People earning 65% or less than the state average weekly wage, which is about $825 a week, will receive their full benefit amount. For people earning more than $825 a week, benefits will be calculated in the following way: 65% of the state average weekly wage, plus 50% of your average weekly wages that exceed 65% of the state average weekly wage. The minimum weekly benefit will be $63.48, and the maximum will be $1,523.63. Our employee guidebook has examples to help employees estimate their benefits, and on August 14th, we will have a benefits calculator available on our website. Benefit payments will be issued weekly for days of leave taken during the prior week. Benefits can be paid either by direct deposit or by prepaid debit card. Claimants will need to select their preferred payment method when they apply. If they do not make a selection, they will automatically receive a prepaid debit card. Consecutive leave does not require claimants to file weekly claims. Intermittent leave will require a weekly claim. And claims can be filed over the phone, on Francis Online, or by downloading our claim form and mailing it to the employment department. Paid leave benefits are taxable. Claimants can authorize paid leave to withhold state or federal taxes from their benefit payments at their initial application or at any time they are receiving benefits. An employee's job is protected if they have worked for the employer for more than 90 days. Employers must maintain health benefits while an employee is on leave, though they can require the employee to continue paying their normal share of the healthcare premium. After submitting an application for benefits, claimants must notify the department within 10 calendar days about any changes to the information on their application. A claim amendment can be submitted to make changes that don't require additional documentation, such as adding or changing employers or reducing the amount of leave taken. An additional application is needed for changes to a claim that required new verification, such as changing the dates of medical leave for a scheduled surgery or extending leave beyond the dates on the initial documentation. Finally, a claim may be canceled at any time if the claimant makes the request, if benefits have not been paid, and as long as the claim was not disqualified by the department. When a claim is canceled, the benefit year and weekly benefit amount are also canceled. If a claimant does not agree with the decision that paid leave makes, they have the right to appeal it by requesting a hearing to review the decision. Hearings can be requested on most things related to a claim, including weekly benefit amount, the length of leave approved, the dates of leave approved, and of course, a denial of a claim. Appeals can be requested in 2 ways: by logging onto your Francis account or by mailing a hearing request to the employment department. If an employee experiences discrimination or retaliation for taking paid leave, they may submit a complaint to the Bureau of Labor and Industries. For employees who regularly work in both Oregon and another state, we look at factors such as where is the work physically performed, where is the base of operations, where is the work directed from, and where is the employee's residence. We look at those factors in that order to determine whether an employee is covered by Paid Leave Oregon. Some businesses will choose to purchase or create their own equivalent plan instead of participating in the state trust. Equivalent plan employees will still receive the same level or higher of benefit required by Paid Leave Oregon. And we will drop in the equivalent plan guidebook in the chat. As we mentioned before, Francis Online is our new benefits portal. This portal is already being used for quarterly payroll reports. This portal will also be available to employees when they want to file their application for benefits. We have resources to help employers understand the new system, including some training and a link to commonly asked questions, which Philip will drop in the chat now. So to summarize, the employee guidebook has everything employees need to know about Paid Leave Oregon and applying for benefits. Applications become available August 14th. Benefits begin September 3rd. Employees can apply online, by mail, or over the telephone. Benefit years are a rolling 52-week period from the initial application. And leave can be taken in daily or weekly increments and may be intermittent or consecutive. And finally, an employee's job in their healthcare is protected if they've worked for their employer for more than 90 days. And now we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you, Emily. Derek, did you have a process you wanted to go through in answering questions?
Sure, I'll read the Q&A and just read them out to you. The first one is kind of a doozy. It's a several part question, so I'll break it up a little bit. What happens to OFLA's Oregon Family Leave Act, available 12 weeks of pregnancy, disability, and sick child leave as it applies to the maximum allowed leave under Paid Leave Oregon? Does the max cap on available leave under OFLA and PLO apply only if leave runs concurrently, or if there's a combined total in any given 12-month leave year?
Okay, thank you. And so there's quite a bit to unpack in that question. And one of the things that the state legislature has done is they've made sure that, to pass legislation to ensure that there's not going to be stacking of leaves where somebody could take leave for OFLA and then take leave for paid leave for the same qualifying event and get up to 24 weeks of paid or of time off. So again, if it qualifies for both types of leaves, there should run concurrently. And there's some examples where paid leave wouldn't qualify, such as military and bereavement leave, where it would qualify for OFLA there. The max as written out under the state legislature is would be 18 weeks. And so it breaks down this way. Okay, there would be 12 weeks of paid leave, 12 weeks of paid leave. There's a possibility of 2 additional weeks for some pregnancy related conditions. So there'll be max of 14 paid weeks, and then the possibility of 4 weeks of unpaid leave under the Oregon Family Medical Leave Act. Now, for individuals that wouldn't be having pregnancy related conditions, it would just essentially be a max of 16 weeks there. Emily, anything that we should add to that? Yeah, so, okay, if you want to move on.
For sure, I think so. Michelle Alpers asks, is Francis for employee and employers to use?
It's for both. It's for both. So starting August 14th, as Emily shared with you, Francis will be available for individuals, for employees to be able to start applying for paid leave for benefits that are going to be paid starting September 3rd. Now, employers will have access to it now to Francis Online, and this is how employers would be. It's replacing a lot of the older systems that the Oregon Employment Department had, and some of the systems that integrated with the Oregon Department of Revenue there. So employers should be able to be using that for reporting payroll. But it is, if they don't have an account, they should go to I dropped a link in, we'll drop it in again, to set up a Francis Online account. This is how we're going to notify you. So if you have employees that would be applying for paid leave, you can go through and select how you want to receive your notifications. And as Emily said, you can receive it a paper copy mailed to you, or you can have it sent to you electronically.
Thank you. Mariga asks, what was it you said regarding eligibility about an employee maybe not being eligible if she is subject to workers' comp?
Yeah, Emily?
Thanks, Philip. Yes, employees who are eligible for workers' compensation or unemployment insurance are not eligible for paid leave.
Don asks, is there a mandatory amount of time to pay a member through the state plan? For example, if I go on an approved leave effective September 3rd, when will I receive my first check?
Typically, it's going to be within 2 weeks there. So that's, upon having completed the application, providing the verification. Once we've, received that, we should be able to have that processed and paid within 2 weeks there. Do want to note that unlike unemployment insurance, there's not a waiting week. So individuals will get paid, and it'll be how they designate they want to get paid. So if they want to have direct deposit, which will be the fastest, or there'll be a prepaid debit card as an option. And lastly, somebody could get a paper check. But again, that'll be the slowest method.
Thank you. Jennifer asks, can an employee use 100% of their employer paid accruals like sick or vacation time and get paid leave Oregon, essentially double dipping?
There was a bill that passed this last legislative session. I think it was Senate Bill 913. And that changed our statute and removed the language that kind of capped the weekly benefit amount, with PTOs supplementing it. So we're still awaiting guidance from our policy team on that, and we would be happy to send that to you once we have it.
Yeah, and thank you for noting the legislation, Emily. So there was a number of pieces of legislation, House Bill 913, House Bill 999, and a couple other ones that affect paid leave. We don't have policy or guidance on those. Those still have to go through the administrative rules process. OBI has been very active in our rules making hearings, and will encourage your members to speak up when we have those hearings. We will share a link with you to sign up for our bulletin. The bulletins will have the postings for when we do have those administrative rule hearings, and would encourage you to either send email commentary or join us for the presentations and go on the record and comment live there.
Natasha also had a question about the estimated claim approval timeline. So still, it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I have a question from somebody who has several staff who took 12 weeks FEMLA after the birth of a child earlier this year. They know the intention is they are taken concurrently. How will this situation be handled when the birth was prior to PLO starting? You're muted.
Sorry about that. Any time taken prior to September 3rd, any OFLA time taken will not be counted against someone's paid leave benefits. That's really going to be the rule moving forward.
Thank you. As an employer, do I need to set up an account right away on the website? So Francis, I assume.
Yeah, if you don't have one set up and you have employees that you think you're going to be taking paid leave, it would be our recommendation to get that set up. It's going to be the quickest way to receive timely notifications. As Emily shared with you, employers are going to be notified twice once when we receive the initial application, and we're going to be asking some simple questions. Does this person work for you? Did they give you timely notice? So if a person knows they have a planned surgery coming up, expecting a child as an example, 30 days notice is what the requirement would be, unless the employer says that somebody can give less, but 30 days notice is typical for planned, for foreseeable leave. If a person doesn't give you timely notice, then their first week of paid leave benefits could be reduced by 25%. So you'll receive, that's the first notification. The second notification is when a decision has been made with the length of leaves, when it will start. Paid leave is not going to share with the employer the type of leave, family, medical, or safe leave, any healthcare information, and we're not going to share with you the actual dollar amount, the paid leave benefit for that specific employee there.
Thank you. So Claudia has a question. How long will it take to approve an initial claim? 2 weeks, and notify the employee and employer. So in that 2-week period, it seems like the employer will be notified.
Once with so it's up to the employee to decide if they want to apply for paid leave benefits. If they want to just use accrued paid time off, that's their choice. If they want to use unpaid time off, that's their choice. But if they pursue paid leave, once they've completed the application, provided the verification documentation, it's typically the goal is to be a 2-week process. Derek, I was looking at Julia's question, and she was asking the employee handbook for the employment department, and I'm not sure what she's referencing. There is an employer handbook for the employment department, related to unemployment insurance on the OED website. The employee handbook for paid leave Oregon is on Paid Leave's website. Emily and I've dropped links into the chat for that. But if she's asking for something else, either another question in the Q&A, we'll try to figure it out.
Great. Yeah, Julie, if that's not been touched upon, or it's not in the chat, or if you need supplemental information, please let us know in the chat, the Q&A. Thank you. What forms will employers need to fill out? What forms will medical providers need to fill out? Will they be similar to what FEMLA or other forms?
For safe leave and bonding leave, people can provide documentation. There will be a form available, but we will also accept the verification sources that Philip mentioned earlier, such as a birth certificate or a copy of a report. For medical leave, paid leave will have a medical provider certification form, and we will also accept the OFLA and FEMLA serious health condition certification form. Medical providers can also kind of create their own form as long as it meets our required, as long as they provide the information that we require, which is information about their license, where they're licensed to practice, and things like that.
Great, thank you. When looking at weekly income, does overtime count towards the employee's income, or would it be based on regular 40 hours work week?
Yeah, so overtime does count towards paid leave, and what we do is we look at the claimant's entire wage history for the last 5 completed quarters to come up with their paid leave benefit. Similar to what we utilize for coming up with unemployment insurance benefits there, but we'll be looking at their entire wage history. So this is, so if an employee has multiple jobs, everything that's been reported to attached to their social security number to the employment department. So we're not looking at hours. For a person to qualify for paid leave benefits, they'll have to have earned at least $1,000 in Oregon in the year prior to their qualifying event, and have contributed to the paid leave trust. So, but again, we're not looking at hours. OFLA, FEMLA, there's an hour requirement to be eligible for those programs, not with paid leave.
Thank you. Elizabeth asks, can you explain the change in OFLA for the look forward leave year?
This is an area where we're still awaiting formal guidance from our policy team, but what will happen once those rules are finished is that OFLA's benefit year will mirror our own. So it'll be a rolling 52-week period from the anniversary of your leave date.
Thank you. We have a participant who has heard that if the state runs out of funds for claims payments, the payments will not be made until further funds are received from employers' payrolls. Is that correct?
Not really. If you followed what happened in the legislature this past session, there was actually a bill that was passed that gave the director of the Oregon Employment Department the authority to delay implementation of awarding benefits for paid leave. Our leadership team, our actuary looked at what is coming in for resources, and by statute, paid leave needs to keep 6 months of reserves in the trust for paying out benefits. We need to be able to pay for the administration of the program, and plus we also have to reimburse the state treasury what was I believe it's $45 million that the state treasury provided the employment department to set up Paid Leave Oregon. But after a detailed analysis of looking at what our program is, the director of the employment department, David Gerstenfeld, the director of paid leave, Karen Humbleball, and our leadership has decided that we will have enough resources to go forward with launching this program on September 3rd, and that there will be enough in reserve to make sure that we're able to pay out benefits moving forward. Now, it does say that if we got under having 6 months of reserves, there could be a delaying of paying out benefits, but we're not planning that at this time. I do also want to talk about what the contribution rate is for paid leave benefits. It's set at 1% of employees' gross wages. And so the employee is going to pay 60% of their 1%, so 0.006 of their gross wages is the employee's contribution for paid leave benefits. Large employers are going to pay 40% of that 1%, or 0.004 of the employee's gross wages. So easy way to think about it, every $1,000 that an employee earns in gross wages, they're going to pay $6. Every $1,000, $6, their contribution there. By statute, that 1% rate cannot go up. It would require the legislature to act on that. Our long-term goal is, and this is after 2 years of analysis, looking at actuary data, looking at at that time 11 other paid leave states. What would be the rate that we could set up this program to be successful and not have to adjust it? I've heard our director say multiple times that long-term is to be able to bring that rate down. So we're set at the max rate and hopefully be able to bring that down in the future.
Great, thank you. I think Margaret had a question in the same vein, but if I'm getting that wrong, please clarify, Margaret. But she asked if there's a rush of over underpayment between claims and what has been banked or reserved from the contributions, what would the outcome or resolution be? I think you touched on that just now. Yeah, and we've done a real deep dive into what what we would expect for the number of claims. And so what we're anticipating between September 3rd, or actually between August 14th, when people start applying, and to the end of the calendar year, is we're expecting 41,000 claims there. So they're also, and so it's about 12,000 or so claims per month is what we're anticipating receiving. In comparison to looking at the other paid leave states across the country, it's about 7 to 8% of the population that access paid leave benefits. And so working with our paid leave state partners, looking at our data, this is how we've landed on that, what that contribution rate is and where we are. Our leadership is very confident that we'll be able to move forward and continue to pay benefits for Oregonians that need it. Thank you. Yep. To be eligible for Oregon paid leave, the leave would need to start as of September 3rd and after. Is that correct?
An employee might already be on leave before September 3rd, but if they had a continuing medical condition or if they had additional time they wanted to bond with their child, they could of course apply for paid leave and if approved, continue that leave.
I think you touched on the next question. Person has 2 employees currently on leave and will still be so come September 3rd. They'll both be about mid-leave. What are the employees' options? Can they apply? And if so, how many weeks are they eligible for? Only what's left since they've already are on approved leaves, or the full 12 to 18?
They may be eligible for the full 12 to 18 weeks or 12 to 14 weeks of paid leave. It depends on the reason for their leave. But yes, if this is in regard to OFLA, any time taken under OFLA prior to September 3rd would not count against an employee's ability to apply for their full paid leave benefits.
Great. OFLA and paid leave Oregon are supposed to run concurrently, but an employer cannot require the employee to take paid leave Oregon, so an employee can stack. Is that correct? And will the Oregon Employment Department cut back PLO benefits if the employee is taking 100% of their PLO out of employer paid accrued leave?
Yeah, so employees cannot stack leave. That's what the intent is of the legislation. So somebody couldn't take 12 weeks of unpaid leave under the Oregon Family Medical Leave and then turn around and apply for 12 weeks of paid leave for the same, the same qualifying condition and expect to have another 12 weeks there. So it's supposed to be that, like I said earlier, that maximum of 16 weeks with 12.
Oh no, you froze.
Paid for unpaid, and but it's not intended to stack leaves there.
Liz asked, do employers on equivalent plans use Francis or go through their insurance carrier?
And equivalent plan employers still need to file their quarterly reports and other forms, which can be done through Francis. They can designate, Philip, help me out here.
Yeah, so just because an employer has a approved equivalent plan, they still have to do reporting in regards to paid leave to the paid leave to the Oregon Employment Department. So this means they have to, continue reporting payroll, reporting contributions, because if that employee leaves that company, we'll be looking at that history there. But the employees are going to be going through their administrator or however it's designated for an equivalent plan. So you can have 2 types of equivalent plans. It could be through a third-party insurance provider, or it could be a self-administered plan. And so the employee would apply through that designee there. They wouldn't be applying through Paid Leave Oregon there. But yeah, the employer still has to do the reporting for contributions and utilization for paid leave.
Thank you. Julia asks, will you look to the employer for coordination of short-term disability wages?
Yeah, so as we noted in our presentation, employees can utilize short-term disability insurance to top off their paid leave benefit. So individuals that are minimum wage workers, they're going to get 100% wage reimbursement under Paid Leave Oregon. So basically, if a person earns $825 or less a week, they're going to get 100% wage reimbursement. Everyone in middle and higher income tax brackets are going to receive 65 to 80% roughly of their salary, and that's up to $132,900 of their salary. If somebody wants to use short-term disability to top off what their paid leave benefit is, they would need to go through their insurance company, because not all insurance companies are going to allow an employee to have access to short-term disability, or they're going to reduce the benefit if the person is getting paid leave benefits there. But the paid leave benefits would be first, and then the short-term disability would be second.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Jolie asks, what percentage do you get when on Oregon leave? I think you touched on this, 60 to 70%, or it varies.
Yeah, and so we can look for that formula well, the formula is in the employee guidebook on how we come up with the exact dollar amount, but it's roughly 60 to 80% of a person's salary for those that are not minimum wage workers, up to $132,900.
What happens to the leave available under OFLA for pregnancy, disability, which is 12 weeks, and sick child, which is also 12 weeks? Does an employee no longer have this additional time available?
This is another question that we're waiting for additional guidance on, and I apologize. We were told by our colleagues in the policy department that there should be more guidance by the middle of next week that we can follow up with you on.
Thank you. Terry asks, can you give examples of what the term relationship is equivalent to family in the definition of families, or the affinity definition?
Emily?
Sure. This was also a change from the last legislative session. And I know that paid leave and BOLI, or the Bureau of Labor and Industries, just concluded rulemaking on this. I don't believe the rules are published yet, but will be soon. And so what's in the temporary rule is a relationship of a familial nature, and that includes relationships where there's an expectation of care, relationships that are close in geography, relationships where the people may share bills or other resources or cohabitate. And so it has a few ways to measure those affinity relationships. Philip,
Yeah.
do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you nailed it. Thank you, Emily.
In order to make the measurement of leave consistent across FEMLA, OFLA, MPL, and paid leave Oregon, should employers change the 52-week rolling measurement for FMLA to the 52-week beginning Sunday before the first date of OFLA paid leave Oregon?
That's a good question, Jessica. And we're not providing any guidance on that. As we mentioned in our presentation, the 52-week rolling benefit year is essentially from when that serious health condition began rolling forward. So if somebody had a qualifying event in September, their benefit year would go from that September through to the following August. So I don't think we have any specific guidance, and nor are we providing guidance for employers on looking to align that. But the benefit year is specifically to that employee and their qualifying event.
And I will say that the Bureau of Labor and Industries can provide some detailed support on different ways you can align your benefits calendars.
Thank you,
Jennifer
Emily.
has a scenario. Employee does not file for paid leave Oregon. They use 12 weeks of FEMLA/OFLA as they have in the past. Then they file for paid leave Oregon for the same reason or different reason. How will an employer let the state know they have used 12 weeks of OFLA FEMLA, or do they then get the 12 weeks of paid leave Oregon, essentially getting 24 weeks off? It's another concurrently.
Yeah, so we've answered a couple variations of this question. Again, leaves are not intended to be stacked there. When a person applies for paid leave, we're going to notify the employer that we have a paid leave application there. That'll be an opportunity for the employers to provide commentary about the utilization of other types of leaves there. The utilization of OFLA runs through BOLI, so it's not a paid leave benefit there. But again, leaves are not intended to stack.
And so I guess in this situation, the employer would inform you all that they already took 12 weeks of OFLA, FEMLA, and then so you would use that information in your decision to either accept their claim or deny their claim.
I'm having a little trouble hearing you, Derek. You're getting a little glitchy on me.
Sorry. So you would use what the information the employer provided about past leave in making your decision about accepting the claim?
Well, and again, there's a whole verification process that the claimant has to go through. So, they might not be eligible just based on the healthcare verification documentation provided there.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, as an employer, my responsibility is to remit the tax and then verify employment when claims are submitted. Am I missing anything?
No, not that. That's pretty much it. Employers should remit the contributions, file their quarterly reports, and then when an employee applies for paid leave will notify you as the employer, and then yes, you'd be asked to verify the employment and also verify when the employee gave you notice, because the rule is 30-day notice.
We have an equivalent plan with our insurance company. Will the employee still contact Francis or the insurance company?
The insurance company. So they will go through whatever that process is set up through the insurance company.
Sharon asks, what was mentioned earlier about S corps? Are they excluded?
No. S corps, so officers within S corporations, religious organization, nonprofits, they'll all be participating in paid leave. That's how the legislature wrote the statute.
Chris asks, if an employee goes out on leave in August 2023 prior to PLO being available and begins STD with a company-sponsored policy, are they then eligible for and receive PLO while receiving the company-sponsored plan?
As we mentioned earlier, there's a bill that's going to impact all of our rules around what constitutes an overpayment from paid leave side, in terms of somebody using benefits or receiving short-term disability payments while receiving their full paid leave benefit. But in this example, you as the employer will be notified when an employee goes on leave. And so you will be aware that their leave was approved and know that they may need to notify their short-term disability plan, just depending on the plan's policies. And I'm sure that the short-term disability providers will also be notifying employers about how they want to coordinate leave as the program gets closer to going live.
Thank you. So the employees mentioned earlier who took 12 weeks off of FEMLA for the birth of their child earlier this year, will they get an additional 14 weeks off for PLO paid leave working now in September?
Yep, they may apply and they may be eligible, because any OFLA or FEMLA taken prior to September 3rd is not counted against their benefit going forward. In the future, the programs are supposed to run concurrently, but before September 3rd, that wasn't possible.
And Derek, I'm looking at the time and I know we've got about 19 questions left in the chat. I do want to let folks know that we do, Emily and I, the team that we're on, we give a similar presentation what we gave today, and we do open it up for Q&A. So the next presentation is Thursday at 3 p.m. It's through Zoom. I dropped a link into the chat. You're welcome to join us. Also, I'm going to put up our contact information or put it. So if we don't get to your question, you can email your questions to us, paidleave@oregon.gov. And we'll you'll get a written response, usually within 2 business days from one of our subject matter experts. If individuals have questions after this presentation, feel free to email us, and I'm going to drop all our contact information into the chat as well.
I think you answered the next question in the queue. It's another concurrent leave but leave starting before paid leave Oregon comes online. So I'll go to the next one. Could an employer require an employee to use any earned PTO while on leave?
The employer may not require the employee to use PTO on leave, but the employer may allow the employee to use PTO to top off their benefits.
Julia did respond to her earlier question. I'm looking for the Paid Leave Oregon Employee Handbook.
We don't have hard copies available to distribute, but please direct your employees to our website. I think it's available in 12 languages now. So, and of course, let us know if we can make this information any more accessible.
Would an employee with a child under 12 months of age be eligible for Paid Leave Oregon for bonding after taking FEMLA OFLA? I guess it depends on if it's this year and it's already happened, yes. And if it's after September 3rd, no. Is that correct?
Under 12 months, yes, all paid leave has to be used within the first year of a child's life or first year after adoption or foster care placement. So potentially, depending on the timing.
Thank you. 2 minutes left. Margaret asked, revise, if there's an issue of over underpayment between claims and what has been banked reserved from employer contributions. If yes, what might be the outcome resolution? Yes.
I'm sorry, Emily, could you, I'm
Sure.
distracted.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you.
I think Philip tried to address this earlier when we talked about solvency. Our fund is solvent. We maintain 6 months of reserves, and we have an economist at the employment department who's constantly projecting and forecasting, and will of course be reconciling the claims with our forecasts, and our contributions going forward. So we don't anticipate any problems.
Brady asked, what information employers will be able to see through Francis?
Employers will be notified that their employee has applied for leave and that their employee has been approved or denied leave. I think we'll also share the dates of leave and the duration of leave, but they will not be able to see the benefit amount.
So another participant asks, please define family member. Who would be considered a family member and how would that be determined?
I'm going to go ahead and pull up the batch rules that were on our rulemaking website. Again, I don't believe these are published, but they are the temporary rules. And so, Philip, if you want to take the next question, I can look for that.
Sure. Thank you, Emily.
For a leave related to birth, what is Oregon following in regards to pre-birth leave or leave related to pregnancy before the date of birth? Is this impacting the 12 to 14 weeks?
So if they have a serious medical condition related to the pregnancy, they could take medical leave, prior to the birth of the child. After the birth of the child, then they could take family leave for that bonding. And that would impact the overall 12 to 14 weeks, because again, you're capped out at 12 weeks of paid leave with the possibility of those 2 different weeks of paid leave, and then the 4 weeks of the unpaid leave there. So it again is 18 weeks max between paid and unpaid leave for a benefit year.
We're at time. Do you have time for one more question?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
So Don asks, if an employee needs to take care of an ill family member out of the country, is this covered by Paid Leave Oregon? And what documentation would be required for the claim to be approved?
This is covered. We of course can't. In general, this is covered and fined, and the documentation would be the same that we require for any other verification. It can be submitted to us in the language that it's written in, and we have bilingual folks on staff who will read it and go through that verification process.
Great, thank you. So we're at time, everybody. Thank you for participating. As Philip and Emily mentioned, they will have a similar program this coming Thursday at 3 p.m. If you want to participate in that, it's on Zoom. Can you provide one more time how they can access that?
Yeah, it's in the chat, but it is the information is on our website. So paidleave.oregon.gov. And so it's under news and events, but it is in the chat. I dropped it at 10:58. And as you did say, Derek, it's at this Thursday, the 10th at 3 p.m. We'll be doing those weekly up through the launch of the program well into October. Those are scheduled out. Feel free to join us. Email us paidleave@oregon.gov. One of our subject matter experts will respond to your question. We also have a toll-free number, 833-854-0166. You can call and speak with a person, and we've got make sure that you get to the right person to be able to answer your questions there. We do appreciate this opportunity to present with OBI and its members. We appreciate our partnership with OBI and how they serve on our advisory committee for paid leave. I also did drop into the chat a link to our newsletter. This is how the best way to stay up to date on paid leave information and to be advised when we do have these upcoming rules hearings there that we'll be partnering with OBI on that as well.
Thank you. With that, we'll sign off on this. Thank you all for participating in this webinar. Have a great day and a good weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.